What Ben Affleck discovered in his testimony has greatly surprised the complete Hollywood scandal of the decade unfold proper before our eyes. If you haven't already, make certain to love this video and enroll in live updated in this developing story in a federal courtroom where Jennifer Lopez now faces serious expenses. Ben Affleck made a sudden appearance no longer as a celeb, not as an ex-husband, but as a witness, a man armed with evidence that would exchange the whole thing, a mystery telephone hidden recordings, and proof of a conspiracy that stretched returned over a long time. Anthon the bombshell dropped as Ben Affleck's testimony endured. Federal sellers entered the court without warning with outright Jennifer Lopez Beckham placed in handcuffs her face. Frozen in shock because the gravity of the situation, Beckham cleaned to anyone gift. Ben failed to speak through emotion. He spoke through evidence, watching why would Ben dare to come back ahead, understanding heckled, lose the whole lot what drove him to reveal a person he as soon as cherished, and what precisely did he witness that was so damning the government acted immediately. This isn't only a celebrity scandal. It's a clash between reality and energy among one guy, courageous, sufficient tatak out, and people who believed their fame may want to buy silence for all timeth. Total tale, raw, unfiltered, begins with Ben Affleck's testimony and wave is revealed, guarantees you may by no means see Hollywood the identical way. Once more I'm standing outdoor the Big Apple Federal Courthouse, in which one of the most surprising arrests in laser records has just occurred. Minutes in the past, Jennifer Lopez become escorted from the constructing in handcuffs, her face hidden below a coat as federal marketers guided her to a ready automobile. Alps. Internal that court docket, the environment turned into electric-powered Aspen. Affleck, now not most effective, a devastating testimony towards his spouse, but additionally provided proof so compelling that federal prosecutors moved for fast arrest. The choosy agreed without hesitation one morning. Inheritor inside the Big Apple court docket grew thick with tension. Jennifer Lopez, the international celebrity who had dominated leisure for many years, sat expectantly at the protection table. She turned in towel, going through accusations of economist impropriety. The case regarded straightforward, even mundane through movie star requirements, but no person could have anticipated that Ben Affleck's car prevailing actor and Lopez's former husband could be the one to transform a tax case into something far more sinister, a moment that left the court docket breathless. Ben took the witness stand, his gaze resolute but heavy with thought of what he become approximately 2% huant there simply to speak approximate lifens. He become there to unveil a stunning reality about the lady he as soon cherished deeply. Why could an A-listing celebrity like Ben Affleck hazard his career and reputation to testify in opposition to his former wife? What drove him to interrupt his silence and doubtlessly wreck a person he as soon as planned to spend his lifestyles with, changed into Thesa formidable stand for justice, or the determined final circulate of a man, together with his personal secrets and techniques to hide the tale. Tracer turned to their rekindled romance in 2021, while Bennifer all over again have become Hollywood's golden couple after their wedding in 2022 and subsequent divorce in 2024. The sector assumed that they had truly grown apart. Ben Affleck believed knew Jennifer Lopez completely, every smile, every look, every diffused gesture like another day inside the tax evasion trio of Jennifer Lopez. The room buzzed with low conversations. Reporters hunched over notebooks in their distinct rows, and attorneys whispered techniques as they waited for the judge to go into. However, while Ben Affleck's call become referred to as a wander witness, the room modified instantly. You could pay attention, a pin drop, some human's idea, it become a mistake. But the way Ben walked to the stand, his shoulders tense and his jaw set firmly, advised all and sundry this become deadly serious. The judge raised an eyebrow, and Jennifer Lopez, who had been casually reviewing files along with her felony group, all of a sudden froze, her assured expression melty dento, something in the direction of fear. Ben Affleck took the oath without looking at very body. I'm here because I cannot live silent anymore, Ben began. What began as suspicions became fact, and what I've discovered is going a long way past tax issues. The decide allowed him to hold no matter objections from Lopez attorneys. And from that second on, the complete trial shifted because what Ben changed into approximately to mention wasn't part of any tabloid speculation or social media rumor. It became something that had haunted him for years. Ben defined that their union in 2021, "We have been happy before everything," said his voice constant but tinged with unhappiness. Or at the least, I idea we had been things commenced converting about. 6 months into their reunion, Jennifer began receiving calls at abnormal hours when Ben asked. She'd smile and say it becomesomely, commercial enterprise or nothing critical. Then came the unexplained absences. Jennifer could claim to be at studio classes that her group later knew not anything about. Choreography rehearsals that weren't on any timetable. I trusted her absolutely, Ben testified. However, something felt wrong. There were inconsistencies I couldn't hide. One night Ben woke to discover Jennifer long gone from their bed. It became 3:00 am concerned. He searched the residence sooner or later, locating her of their home workless. Hurriedly ending a video call whilst she noticed him, she slammed the computer close. Simply work stuff, she stated with a grin that didn't reach her eyes cross lower back to bed. However, Ben had visible suspicion of the display to notice something atypical. It wasn't a enterprise call. It regarded like safety digicam pictures of what regarded to be a private residence. This subsequent morning, while he casually asked about it, Jennifer became defensive via accusing him of spying on her. It turned into their first primary argument because getting gained collectively, and it ended with Jennifer leaving the house for 3 days, claiming she needed area. "I have stored silent abouthies for too long," Ben stated, his voice gaining electricity. "I have award-winning movies, however none of that matters in comparison to what I witnessed and what I found." He became barely toward Jennifer. "You constructed it all onlys." Ben advised the court that his suspicions grew while Jennifer commentating mysterious journeys to Miami and the Cayman Islands. "Not happy with what I did next," Ben admitted. "However, I needed to recognize this reality." Even as Jennifer became away on off her trips, Ben searched their home, in her personal workplace, in the back of a false panel in her closet that he by chance located when searching out economic documents. He located a hidden secure. Then I attempted the date we first met, back in 2002. The safe opened. Inner Ben located 3 telephones, multiple passports with Jennifer's photo, but one-of-a-kind names, and a computer. What I found on that cell phone changed the entirety, Ben testified, his voice losing the gallery. Liana DeHead, Jennifer's lawyers, objected variously. However, the judge overruled them after prosecutors argued for relevance. Smartphone contained messages, photographs, and videos that discovered a shocking fact: Jennifer Lopez were running an problematic money laundering operation for years. The tax evasion costs are simplest end of the iceberg. Ben stated this wasn't about hiding money from the government. Ben defined finding spreadsheets tracking thousands and thousands of dollars moving through shell corporations were disguised as valid enterprise charges for Jennifer's various organizations. However, maximum traumatic have been the motion pictures. She recorded the entirety. Ben Sadi's face pale, not for blackmail. However, for safety, she stored video proof of each transaction. Every person worried it become her insurance average. One video confirmed Jennifer in a luxurious and suite with acknowledged associates of a chief drug cartel discussing the way to pass money via her upcoming global excursion. Any other confirmed her teaching team of workers to create fake contracts and invoices for offerings in no way rendered the character concept I knew den Texas. Ben stated, his voice held the back of the glamour and the skills was a person who had built a whole crook organization. Ben explained that Jennifer had developed a tricky machine to maintain absolute manipulate over her criminal operations. She compartmentalized the whole lot. One of a kin groups dealt with exclusive aspects and few humans ever noticed the entire picture. She hid, a technique Ben testified she'd convey human beings in slowly first with small requests. That seemed innocent a want right, here a special arrangement. There nothing overtly illegal, just bending the regulations a little, as soon as people had been compromised. With these smaller infractions, Jennifer could involve them in more and more questionable sports. If all of use expressed difficulty, she had ways off making sure their silence. There were Thackeray's promotions, bonuses, get right of entry to two heron of a kind global. Ben defined after which theer had been the sticks, Ben paused wallowing difficult. I found a folder on the computer categorized insurance. It contained compromise. Statistics on every person in her inner circle myself blanketed the folder contained photos, videos, and documents that would ruin careers and relationships Jennifer had methodically accrued. Dirt on absolutely everyone near her, creating a web of fear that stored human bins. Nobody ever explicitly threatened Ben. Clarified, they failed to Mustaverione, understood the unstated rule loyalty to Jennifer was non-negotiable. Bond defined how he determined that Jennifer's splendor line wasn't simply selling cosmetics become transferring money. Excursion bins were selected, primarily based on how his budget might be manipulated. No longer fan-demand film initiatives had been chosen for their capacity to justify big coin sanctions across worldwide borders. Every business selection had purposes been testified the public one, and the actual one maximum stressful changed into Jennifer's careful cultivation of her public photographs, a self-made success tale. Add a parading artist who had pulled herself up from humble beginnings. The picture changed into a supercover for her sports. Who would suspect that America's cherished entertainer was Serge treading a big criminal agency, the Jennifer Lopez. The Sectornos is a carefully crafted fiction, Ben said, his voice regular but whole eye livid with both variations, the public icon and the private crook. It took me to long toe. Just accept that the female I loved in no way truly existed. Ben described the moment. Whole thing changed for him. After discovering the hidden secure and its contents, he become confronted with an impossible dizer, continue to be silent and grow to be complicit, or speak out and doubtlessly destroy his personal existence within the technique. I didn't recognize what to do, Ben admitted it Terish, her notwithstanding everything some component of me nevertheless did, and I knew what coming ahead could imply, no longer only for her but for me for weeks. Ben stated he wrestled along with his sense of right and wrong. He'd taken into consideration crunch Jennifer at once, but feared what she may do if she knew he had observed her secret. He ideated approximate alienously, tipping off authorities, however worried his connection could ultimately found out. Then something passed off that made that choice for me, Ben stated, his voice growing tight with emotion. A young manufacturing assistant on a movie. Jennifer become generating suddenly disappeared after relivating questions about a few monetary discrepancies. The reputable story become the fucking movie diversities. However, Ben had visible her call and some off the documents from the safe. She had been asking too many questions. It couldn't show anything befell tower. Ben clarified, however, the timing become too convenient, and I noticed how Jennifer reacted while her name came up. There was not anything there, no problem, no curiosities. Cold vacancy that night. Ben made copies of the whole thing he had observed and secured them in more than one locations. He contacted a federal prosecutor he had met years in advance while discovering a role and arranged a exclusive assembly. Knew what it'd value me, Ben stated, my recognition, possibly my profession, surely any piece in my lifestyles. However, I saved thinking about that younger female, about all of the humans being used in this scheme without their know how silent I was, become an inga part of it. Ben paused, then seemed at once at Jennifer for the first time due to the fact that taking the stand, the breaking factor wasn't worry, he stated. It turned in hospitating that evil flourishes whilst good people do not anything, and I decided he could not live with doing nothing. The court docket fell absolutely silent as Ben Bogan the maximum damning portion of his testimony. He asked permission to object evidence without delay to the court, and the judge granted it over the strenuous objections of Jennifer's criminalitium. Federal retailers delivered in a sealed proof container. Ben authenticated the contents, the unique phones and laptop he had discovered at the side of backup drives containing all of the documents' entirety is there, Ben said. The transaction facts, the conferences, the videos, the blackmail cloth. It's all exactly as I found it, as a federal agent connected the PC to the court's display system. Jennifer's compass advocate ultimately cracked. She leaned ahead, whispering urgently. To her legal professionals, one stood to item, however. That aside, reduce him off the court, will examine Neitha's evidence. The Chews said firmly. First video performed, it confirmed Jennifer in a hotel suite into bivanly educating a person off Digicom proximally how to shape payments to avoid detection. No more than 10,000 at a time stated on the video. Spread it across all 5 debts. Make it look like product sales. Greater films observed. Jennifer Assembly. Renowned criminals. Jennifer threatening a nervous accountant who raised concerns. Jennifer lying about how easy it changed into 2 idiot tax government at some point of the presentation. Ben remained compensate authenticant each item and explaining its context. Jennifer, by contrast, Cimetto cut back in her chair, her famous self-assurance evaporating with every new revelation. When the proof presentation concluded, the lead prosecutor stood, Your Honor, in light of this new proof, the U.S. requests an immediate arrest warrant for Jennifer Lopez on prices of money laundering, racketeering, tax fraud, and obstruction of justice. The judge considered for simplest a second before nodding. Request granted. Federal sellers moved closer to Jennifer, who sooner or later broke her silence with a desperate cry. Ben, how ought you do this to me? After the whole lot, we suppose to every different bench checked out her directly. His expression, indignant, however profoundly unhappy. This isn't about us, Jen, he said quietly. It is approximative and incorrect. It's about all of the people you've got harm, all of the lives you've damaged. I loved you, however, I cannot shield you from the consequences of your own alternatives. As the sellers approached with handcuffs, Jennifer's very last masks slipped, gone, become the loved entertainer, the glamorous icon. In her location became a cornered criminal, eyes darting for escape routes, calculating even now if there was a manner out. No person will Bellevue, she hissed at Ben. I'll make sure of it. Ben shook his head. The fact is already out there, he replied, and it is more potent than both folks. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed Viot's silent court, while Ben Affleck stepped down from the witness stand. Headed not appear to be a man who had won something. He seemed exhausted, as though through it of secrets and techniques have been physically crushing him. The court remained eerily silent as federal marketers escorted Jennifer Lopez away. Even the decide seemed shaken by way of what had transpired. Several jurors wiped away tears, not of sympathy for the fallen superstar, however, from surprise of such betrayal of publicly. Ben did not speak to the clicking. Whilst exited, he walked out of the courthouse with his head held excessive, however his shoulders carried the load of fears of silence and the information that had simply helped bring down a person hears soon as loved deeply. Whilst later asked by means of a chronic reporter if he regretted his selection to come ahead, Ben repetitively and sweet, the handiest element I remorse is not seeing the truth faster. However, out of doors, the court docket, the enjoyment enterprise was imploding. Studio executive referred to as emergency meetings task concerning Jennifer Lopez had been without delay suspended. Her enterprise campaigns issued statements distancing themes falls from the celebrity. Her splendor strained stock plummeted within horse at the back of closed doors. Harm managed teams worked frantically. Publicists fueled limitless calls. Felony teams organized fourth fallout and investigation extended with federal authorities indicating Thatchers in Lopez's inner circle make weekly face prices of their personal. Social media exploded with reactions. A few fans remained steadfastly loyal, claiming Ben's testimony changed into influence with the aid of jealousy or revenge. Others express surprise and betrayal, feeling, in my view, deceived by a celebrity whose rags to wealthiest tale had stimulated them. Video clips of Jennifer's courtroom look spread like wildfire, with frame language specialists reading each movement, every expression, maximum painfully revealing where its retrospective analyses now flooding news sites and YouTube channels. Human buy-in scammed via Jennifer's beyond interviews, social media posts, and enterprise bulletins, locating suspicious styles. That regarded apparent in hindsight the unexplained wealth the continuously rotating group of workers the global enterprise offers that. By no means pretty, made sense lovers weren't simply bowled over, they were heartbroken. This wasn't simply any other superstar scandal, it became the whole unraveling of a cautiously constructed delusion that tens of millions had believed in, and been stimulated by means of for many years industry insiders who had labored with Jennifer started out coming ahead with their personal testimonies maximum, claimed lack of information of any crook activity, but Manu admitted to witnessing concerning conduct or questionable enterprise practice that they had brushed off on the time flanny. Specialists weighed in with sobering checks. Jennifer Lopez doubtless life, decades in jail if convicted ENL, prices her fortune might probably be seized, her legacy completely tarnished, and what have Ben Affleck? A few hailed him as a hero who sacrificed personal comfort for truth, others questioned his reasons and timing. However, as one prominent amusement attorney noted on a cable news panel, no matter how you experience Affleck's actions, the evidence speaks for itself. This is not about him, it's about an alleged crook organization that operated in simple sight for years.